Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Skull Takers. We've got Dara here. My name's Ryan, and our Lord and Savior Dara has gone 4-1 at another GT back to back. This one Broadsword. We're very excited to hear all about it. How are you feeling after that one, Dara?
Yeah, real good, man. Obviously, great to be talking about more world leader stuff. Always my favorite
Yep.
thing to do. Great to see you kind of, taking the role of the interviewer and stuff. That's really cool. Watch your whole video with Jamie, which if you guys haven't seen it, you should check that one out. It's a real
That was
treat.
fun.
But yeah, feeling great to be honest. It was actually, I was saying it in the car on the way back to the guys. It was super, super nice to be at a point now where I'm like consistently hitting 4-1, whereas before I was consistently hitting 3-2. So
Mm.
it's actually this one kind of cements it as something that I'm like, cool. This is now my like benchmark, which is a really
Oh, that's
nice kind
awesome.
of like sign of progression for me, I think.
For sure, that's super cool, man. And yeah, like you mentioned, I guess a shoe on the other foot here. Normally, it's you interviewing me, and now we're on the other way around, and you're regularly smashing out good results.
Yeah.
So the tournament, what list did you use?
Yeah, so it was Broadsword, Broadsword 6, I think this one was. So the guys from Broadsword Wargaming, very famous YouTube channel, which I'm sure lots of people have heard of,
Yep.
running their, twice a year event up in Mayo. So it's quite a long drive by Irish standards to get up there, like 3.5 hours in the car,
Oh my God.
which is like nothing for Americans or Canadians, right? But yeah, so nice little road trip up with the boys. Drove up with my boy Mike, who is one of the Team Ireland boys and my regular Blood Angel bounce buddy. So he was bringing the BA. There was actually a good contingent of people who came up from Cork for this. We had Peter, who decided he was going to be real masochistic and run Ravenwing, and it was like, and it wasn't like Ravenwing. It was like actually Ravenwing, which I was just like, all right, dude, you're
Amazing.
gonna go like 05. My boy went 3-2, which I'm like,
What a champion.
like fair. Beat world. He beat the RB2K. Like it was
No,
literally like
stop lying.
we
Stop
won't
lying.
talk about that, but
It's not possible.
Robin's gonna be watching who ran the RB2K, and the shit that I gave him when he lost that game was real.
Oh my God.
But yeah, it was good. It was really nice, and yeah, I was bringing the RB2K as well. Which, for anyone who doesn't know, obviously this is the list that me, Brian, and Ryan have been running since the MFM update. It's kind of like Ryan's baby with a little bit of like alteration since then, and the list is amazing. I've said it
So fun.
before. I'm running it this season because it's a short season. I don't really want to mess around with non-gron in this season. And I said I'd like kind of, mix things up and go back to the roots of what World Leaders is. And honestly, I'm loving it. Like, I didn't think going back to Angron would be this much fun, but it's so good. Like, this list is so fun to play. It feels great on the table. It feels like it has all the answers I want. And yeah, it was a blast. I mean, the five corn berserkers, man. I'll tell you the tales when we get into the games, but wow.
That'd be so fun.
Wow, those
Um,
guys. But yeah, it was
yeah,
great.
and I think we'll put some links down in the video. Obviously, at this point, the list has kind of been gone over in a bunch of other videos, so we won't waste time kind of breaking down what the list is. If you haven't watched any of our other videos going over this list, you should probably go watch those as well. There's one with me, there's one with Dara again, and Brian, and then there's two with Brian, must be now.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's four Red Path videos, Skull Takers, with this list. And up until this point, it's gone like 18-3, and now it's 22-4.
22-4. Yeah, between the
So
between the three of
between the
us, we've
three,
dropped four games
yeah,
across. What is it? 4, 5, like 6 tournaments or something. 5 tournaments. It's
it's
crazy.
I think it's five tournaments, three countries, three different players. We've dropped four games,
Yeah, yeah. Which
so
is
crazy.
yeah.
Um,
And a lot of people are having success with this list. I'm seeing a lot of
yeah,
people
for sure.
talking about it.
Yeah,
So if you want to run world leaders competitively in this season, it's the one to do. I think.
yeah, it's definitely fun. But yeah, I'd love to hear about the event, man. So I hear that Broadsword is a little bit of a boogeyman for you.
It is.
Um,
It is. Yeah.
so tell me more about that before we get into this glorious 4-1.
Yeah, so Broadsword is like currently it's the biggest tournament that's run in Ireland. So it's like typically around like 50 to 60 people. This one was 55, I think. And yeah, it's hyper competitive. Like all the WTC guys go. The guys from Northern Ireland typically come down. I think there was 3 or 4 of them at this one. So the top, like you're talking about in a field of 55, you're talking maybe 10 to 15 current or ex WTC players, which is really really good. And then obviously their kind of surrounding environment players as well, like coaches and all that, are going to be there too. So it's a tough meta to play into. It's always the toughest tournament in Ireland. Um, Typically uses like WTC missions and layouts and stuff, which I am less practiced on compared to
Mm.
like the other people. I generally play GW or UKTC. So that's always a little bit of a remember this is how these things work, because they use the WTC FAQs as well, which you're very familiar with, obviously.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's often an event where so I've gone 4-1 there before,
Okay.
but that was like my first 4-1, I think. And historically, it's been a 2-3-3-2 event for me. More so 3-2 than 2-3. I think I 2-3 there once and 3-2 there maybe like 4 or 5 times. But it's always really tough, and I always run into someone who I'm like, oh no, my
Oh
nemesis.
no.
And it's
Um,
it's actually historically been the event where it's like I go 3-0, and then it's like I always say it's like I'm like Icarus flying into the sun, you know, and I get up there and I'm like, ooh, it's pretty hot up here, and then I get burned and sent down, and then because it's so sharky, all the players on 3-1 are also good, so I normally get sent down further again. So
yeah. Fair enough, man. Yeah, so for those of you, so the I guess WTC players that for those of you who play regular WTC, when he says WTC players, he means like Team Ireland players, like players who are actually making the country's top team that are going to WTC. It's not just dudes who play on WTC's terrain; it's the top players, and so it's a sharky meta for sure.
yeah.
Um, all right, man. So you've gone bouncing 3-2s and a 2-3 in there, and now you get back to a 4-1. Why don't you take us through it? So game one.
So game one, going up in the car, we got our pairings the day before, and
Ooh.
I nearly pooped my pants in the car, but I knew I couldn't because we still had a long way to go before we got to Mayo. I was playing into Guard. I was playing into
Oh,
Ben on the Imperial Guard, and you bet that there was a lot of Aquilans in this list, and I was
oh
just like,
no.
oh. So there's 20 Aquilans, which seems to be the magic number because you obviously recycle one.
Yeah.
And it was Guard good stuff. You know, there was a couple of Rogel Dorns, there was a couple of tank commanders, there was Leontis and the homies, there was a Hellhound with the not the flame cannon, the like chem cannon,
Ooh,
which
that's interesting.
yeah, I didn't realize if it shoots you, it takes away your cover for like the
Yeah, that's
rest
just the
of the
Hellhound
tournament.
rule.
Yeah, I was just like,
Oh,
whoa, okay, that's insane. And there was like some mortars. There was a yeah the Aquilin squads, and then there was a Scion brick and a Kasserkin brick as well. So it was like all the things that we hate to see as world leader players. You know,
no, we don't want
real
it.
real scary list.
And this was obviously not using the World Championships of Warhammer FAQ that's been circulating around, where Aquilon's got the backhand, where they're no longer allowed to deep strike or rapid ingress three. This is you're allowed. They're allowed to ingress three, and they're allowed to throw grenades.
Yeah, so
Ugh.
that's a tough one for us because
Yeah.
obviously they can charge block us very well,
Yep.
which does happen during the game. So yeah, it's a pretty tough one. We are starting on search and destroy deployment though, which is nice for me.
Ooh, spicy for you.
Yeah, pretty spicy. But the layout of the map made it quite difficult for me to actually use Angron well in that deployment. There's a lot of big buildings in the middle to kind of,
Yeah.
navigate around. I'll have it pop up on screen the map and stuff, but
Okay.
yeah, it was a challenging one. So we rolled up and we're chatting away, having the pre-game chat and deploying and everything. And I thought I'd lined up quite a nice like little push, and kind of forgot that Leontis can like redeploy 3 units. Um,
Oh
pretty
no.
pretty big like shit my pants
Yeah,
moment,
it's
you
it's
know.
oh oh shit.
Yeah, I was like, oh yeah,
Um,
you can do that. So the 2 Dorns on the line, which I was like, ooh, you've really misdeployed those, suddenly became other things that were not Dorns.
okay.
So obviously the Aquilans were in the sky, and so were the Scions, and the Kasserkin were riding around in a Chimera. So have a very kind of passive turn one. I set up a lot of staging. In general, I play the RB2K like super passively anyway.
Mhm.
But yeah, basically the first kind of opening moments of the game, there's not much going on. It's just me kind of like
Yeah.
posturing and him pushing out a little bit, getting some angles on some stuff, and nothing really too much happens. And kind of turn two is where things kick off a little bit. I
Mhm.
send Ron out into the Hellhounds, and this game, it's like, do you know the Very Hungry Caterpillar, that like children's story? This game was like the Very Hungry Primarch because
He
Ron
ate.
was just like eating good all game long. So I
Oh
sent
my
him into a
god.
Hellhound. That was fine, and I pushed up some 8 bound to charge a Rogel Dorn, which Aquilon's Imperial in front of it. I basically set up a turn where I was like, I'm gonna push you in 4 different places. Aquilons can only appear in one place.
Yeah.
So then I
There you
sent
go.
like, yeah, it's what you got to do, right? So sent some Exalted into a tank commander, and I sent 2 spawn and 3 8 bound into a Chimera, and they beat the crap out of the Chimera, which was
Oh
really
yeah.
funny.
Delicious.
So it was actually yeah, they beat that up. The 8 bound kind of whiffed, and then the spawn powered up and just like destroyed it, and he lost like 5 Casterkin in the explosion, which I was just
Oh
like,
no.
we take those. So I piled into the Casterkin, and they killed one of the spawn, which I was just like, what?
What?
Like, what the hell?
Did you not have feel no pain or did you?
No, I didn't have Feel No Pain up then.
Okay, that makes a little more sense, but
It made it,
still.
yeah, it wasn't too bad. Obviously, my 8 bound butchered the Aquilans that were in front of them, who then got reinforced because that's just what happens with Aquilans.
Yeah. 100%.
And they piled into the Dorn, which I was like, I just gotta like make this thing -1 to hit because it's gonna be shooting
Yeah.
Angron in the next turn. Angron flips the Hellhound and throws it into the sun, which is no big surprise. And the Exalted pick up the Tank Commander, which I'm like, cool.
Awesome.
It's still a pretty good push. Most of the things that I wanted to happen did happen, and he's
Yeah.
quite pushed back in his deployment zone. So then the Scions appear, and they blow the crap out of Invocatus in the middle objective. But I sticky it because I'm like, okay,
You're right.
well, I'll take my
G.
primary.
Yep.
And some Aquilans appear in my backline and like gun some Jackals off my home field objective. But I have like 5 Jackals left, which is fine. The Aquilans aren't really like terribly
No.
shooty. Yeah. And then the 2 Dorns open up into Ron and do 4 damage to him total, which I was like, let's fucking go.
Let's.
We're in the money right now.
Oh, jeez.
And I rapid ingressed my 3 Exalted in this
Yep.
turn. I rapid ingressed them behind a building so that they could charge the Scions, which had deep struck. Because I was like, I need
Oh
those
yeah.
guys off the board right now.
Yeah.
So my next turn comes around, and I'm like, this is the big push. So 6 Exalted go into one of the Dorns, flip it. Angron
Yeah.
goes into the other Dorn, flips it. The Exalted go into the Scions, flip him, and then pile into a tank commander who fails his no fallback check, which is
Oh
pretty
my
great.
goodness.
My 5 remaining Jackals ran into the Aquilans and killed none and got killed by them in combat, which I was just like, I'm so ashamed of you.
I mean,
Um,
he deserved. He does. Your opponent deserved some luck at that point.
yeah, to be fair, yeah. And
Oh
then Mo
jeez.
and the boys were running around, and they ended up picking up the other Aquilin squad that had come back in and stuff, and they were just like holding an objective. They didn't really have anything to do in this game. They were just,
They were just like bouncing in on the rhino.
yeah,
Dun, dun, dun,
basically,
dun.
yeah, yeah,
Like,
that kind of vibe. But yeah, after that, it was kind of curtains because Ron went on to flip the other tank commander. So Ron just like killed every tank basically,
oh my god.
and then my Exalted 8 went into Leontis and the infantry squad on the backfield. So
Oh,
it was,
poor
yeah,
Leo.
it was a closeout from there. So that one finished up with a pretty good win. It was 93-50 for me in the end on that
Yes,
one.
that's juicy right there.
Hmm.
Now, was your event doing points or like win percentage as the tiebreaker?
Yeah, points were the tiebreaker. So I was like,
Oof.
I was trying to push hundreds
Yeah,
here. So dropping 7, I was like, I'll take it in the guard game, but
yeah,
I
for
didn't
sure.
really want to go sub 90 in any of my games. Basically
Yeah,
to
fair
make
enough.
sure that my tiebreaker was quite high. But yeah, I
Yep.
was happy that I was able to overcome the Aquilin menace. It definitely was like a pretty stressful game, I would say, in terms of just like making sure I did everything correctly and was clued in. But
Mhm.
yeah, Imperial Guard, man, it's a tough one. When the
Yeah,
Dorns
for sure.
whiffed, and it was literally just because I piled the 8 bound into that other Dorn that made it hit worse. It was like, all right, I gotta make this play. I'm gonna lose the 8 bound, but it's gonna totally be worth it. So, and
Yeah,
it was.
absolutely, man. Yeah, man. Honestly, like guard are so scary, and the shooting is still so good. Like
Yeah.
I think the other day I was playing on a stream game for a local channel, and I lost Angron to like two tanks and two transports just like randomly shooting. It wasn't even Dorns. It was just like some dudes, and it was
Yeah,
just how. But yeah,
it's
their shooting is wild. So like even just like a single Kasserkin bomb or like the Scions coming down can put in work on stuff. So
yeah. That's why I was really happy I was able to take out the Casterkin quite early. And
Mhm.
just like I was throwing my spawn and an 8 band unit into like a Chimera and Casterkin, and I was like, this is such a fine place. Like they're going to be
Yeah,
out of the game after this. I don't care. Like this is
yeah,
totally worth it.
yeah.
So yeah, it was a very interesting game.
Go away. So you're feeling good, taking care of the guard menace.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm not feeling good. What I'm
oh,
feeling is
why not, Dara? Tell
incredibly
us.
hungover. I was
Oh
like,
no.
me and the boys, I think I, I was like messaging you. Me and the boys stayed out until about like 3 a.m. and it was, I was shook, I was not in a good way.
That's
And a
amazing.
serious case of the
Um,
vapors, put it like that.
so you're just like vibing, trying to beat guard.
Yeah, yeah, straight vibe. I was
And
actually okay
still,
in game one. I was okay. It was like afterwards the stress decompression of like
oh
fighting
no.
guard. I was just like sitting in the chair, being like, "Man, I need some water real bad."
And so how are you ever gonna make it through your next game?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I'm playing Renegade Raiders. I'm playing Jer.
Okay.
I've played Jer before. He's got a gorgeous Alpha Legion army. It's really really nice. It's normally me and him fighting it out for best painted at an event. So knew it's going to be a good game. Jer's like a big rowdy kind of like raucous sort of guy. I knew there was going to be a lot of shouting and stuff, and I was like, I'm not really like in the headspace for this right now, but it'll be fine. So Jer was bringing a pretty cool Renegades list. It was like all infantry combat good stuff with some guns as well, which is
Okay.
a little bit different from what you normally see from Renegades, but there's still a lot of classics. So there was a Lord, there was a Master of Possession, there was something like 15 or 20 Legionnaires, one big brick, and then some small ones. There was two 5-man Warp Talons and a 10-man. There was two bricks of 10 possessed, one for the mop and one by himself.
Ooh.
And what else was there in there? There was some cultists, and there was two havoc squads as well,
Okay.
with a variety of weapons and good stuff. But yeah, it was a list which I was like, this wants to blend me on objectives, and that's gonna hurt if I sit on the objectives, basically.
Yeah.
So
So
so this was a good one. I pull off some nice moves here.
let's hear
Um,
it.
so I end up going first in this one, and I am super passive. I'm literally just like put Invocatus on the middle, behind like some crates, basically. Put some random trash on the top, I think with some jackals,
Mhm.
and put some random trash on the bottom, which was a couple of spawn. I'm like, all right, flip to you, Jer. You know, like
Yeah.
I don't care.
You think?
Yeah, do your thing. So Jared kind of pushes up as well, also a little bit tentative. So we have a really, really passive turn one, both of us. We're just like, you blink, which is
Yeah.
is fair. Um, so then my turn two comes around and I roll up advance and charge. All right. So I'm like, all right, let's go.
You
So I
go.
send Ron into 10 possessed, picks them all up, which I was like, good man, Ron. That's what you should do. That was great.
Oh
And
no.
elsewhere, kind of picked up a couple of small squads, but nothing too impressive. Like killed some legionnaires, killed a couple of havocs, sent a spawn into like havocs and killed a few. This kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It was still pretty. It wasn't like a go turn by any means. And
Yeah.
Invo's just like sitting in the middle, being like, "I'm gonna cleanse so good." This kind of carry on. It's pretty passive, pretty passive. But I've set up my exalted 8 bands in a certain building, which is about 4 or 5 inches away from Lord Invocatus. And
Okay.
I was like, all right, come here, Jer. So Jer sends in the
I
Legionnaire
smell a
brick.
heroic. I
Oh, you
smell
can
a
smell
heroic
that heroic,
coming.
baby. You know it's cooking in the kitchen. So Jer sends the because he draws assassinate, right? And it's
Oh
like
no.
sends in the Legionnaire brick with the Lord and 5 warp talons into Invo,
Okay.
and he has to charge the warp talons like around onto the objective. And the Legionnaire brick goes into Invo, and I'm like, all right, where's the Lord finishing here? And the Lord was based Invo, so I was like, oh. So I heroic with the Exalted 8 band through the wall, and tag the back of the Legionnaires. So I'm like, there's
Yep.
gonna be like 5 Legionnaires punching me. I'm so fine with this.
Yeah.
So the Exalted then so obviously he fights first with the Legionnaires. They don't kill Invo, which is hilarious.
What?
Yeah, he's just like hanging out. But then the Warp Talons too. So I was like, oh,
Okay.
sad.
Yeah.
But then the Exalted body slam
Oh, I bet.
the Legionnaire squad, like turn them into mist, and the Warp Talons disappear into the sky. Elsewhere on the board, the other possessed squad is kind of lurking, and he sends 5 Legionnaires, 10 Warp Talons, and a Havoc squad into Ron. Doesn't kill him. Ron swings back, picks up the Warp Talons, which I'm like, let's
Oh,
go, Ron. I love you
no.
so much, big boy. Like, I was
Yes.
like, if you
He's the
weren't on the
best.
board right now, I'd kiss your big red head. You're holding up that flank so well. So then I push really aggressively. I send Mo and the boys in, and the Exalted 8-bound just have this crazy game where they just push and push and push, and they dominate one flank. They kill like another squad of Legionnaires, they kill a squad of Havocs, they kill the other Possessed Brick and the Master of Execute or Master of Possession, and they just like they turbo the lines. They're just like doing God's work. All the while, my Jackals are just like laughing around, like scoring me points and stuff. So, and then Ron is just still alive, like flying around in the backfield, like beating up cultists and stuff. Because he's earned that cathartic release at that point in my mind. I'm like,
Jesus.
you go for this,
So
Ron. This is all yours.
so Ron 8 game 1, Exalted 8 game 2,
Yep,
and they're just taking turns showing each other up. It's like one of those
basically.
like competitions who can smack the other army the hardest.
Who can smack the hardest? Yeah. So really, that heroic seal the
Yeah,
deal, because
that's a great play.
crippling that mid that early in the game and
Mhm.
flipping such an important squad, and then having the momentum to just shove that unit super deep into the lines and just be like, cool, let's go for it.
Yeah,
That was huge. And I knew when I made that move that it was pretty much going to be game over, because
yeah,
it was a really crucial move to make. But them's the breaks.
yep.
It's what you got to do.
And that's what I love. I actually love that about Avocado is that he's a relatively small base size,
Hmm.
so that like you can kind of predict where the enemy has to end up charging him.
Hmm.
Um, and so he can actually like it's one of the things that separates him from something like a Rhino or the 6-man Exalted or Angron is like those guys have big bases or big footprints, and it's harder to predict to where the heroic support is going to come from.
Yeah,
With Avocado, you know that like you can get some guys in there to help him out, and that's
100%. Yeah.
and that sounds like what you did was awesome. So
Yeah,
good,
it was
man.
cool. And I had it set up in a way where it was like, even if he didn't go for the charge into Invo, there was a heroic for the 5 Zerks or the Spawn. Like the Exalted 8-bound were 6 inches away from them as well. I always
Okay.
generally play with like a heroic in mind. I always kind of keep a CP for it as well, because I'm like,
Yep.
it's such a momentum shift when you pull off a naughty heroic. It's just
Yeah.
like, oof, the game changes.
Yeah, it's I love that's one of the coolest changes that they made in Pariah, in my opinion, is changing heroic from 2 CP to 1 because now it's a usable stratagem. Like
Yeah,
before, paying 2 CP to fail a charge roll was real bad. You just couldn't do it, like or you didn't have the CP for it to even try.
yeah,
Now it's just like game winning 1 CP, and it feels just as good as Overwatch.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I can do.
and so
Yeah.
and so yeah, like I think that both of them are just really impactful core stratagems, and I like that.
Yeah.
Um,
So that one
so
finished 152, which I was like, nice.
152.
Yeah,
Holy
got the
shit.
big hundy
All
on
right.
that one.
All right, there you
Um,
go. So you're up near the top. You're Icarus wing strapped on,
yeah,
buddy.
the Icarus wings are on, and I'm starting to get a little bit nervous. I'm like, okay, game 3, last game of the day. My body is fading. My mind has departed, and I know I'm like, all right. If I can somehow get a nice, easy game to coast through at the end of this day, I will survive, and that's all I'm hoping to do at this point.
Yeah, 100%. Nice easy games at 50-person Shark Tank tournaments always happen, right? At 3-0 or at
Yeah,
2-0 kind of
yeah.
thing.
Not
So,
to be,
not to
unfortunately.
be.
No, I was playing Bart, and Bart was bringing his Drukhari, and Bart
Ooh,
is someone that I met at the first GT that I ran.
okay.
He has the sexiest army alive. Like the paintwork is like I'm not talking like heavy metal standard. I'm talking this man should be entering Golden Demon. Like he is insane. So he's got a Drukhari list with everything under the sun in it. It's got Talos, it's got Kronos, it's got Lilith and the Witches, 2 Incubi squads, 2 Archons. What else is there? There's a Raider, there's a ton of Venoms, ton of Kabalites, Beastmaster squad, the whole thing. I'm like,
Ooh,
this is like a billion units. So I know it's going to be real stressful. Like, real stressful. So this is a challenging game, and
Yeah.
I am not in the best headspace for this game, to say the least, I think. But Bard is a really nice dude. Like, and I
Yeah.
knew from having TO'd a bunch of games that he was playing that I was going to have a really good time because
Oh, it's
he
great.
just brings a lot of good energy to the table. So I knew that was going to lift me up. And it really did. So if Bard happens to be watching, like, it was honestly heartwarming to actually get to play against him. And I said it at the start, I was like, I'm really happy that I get to play against you.
Oh, that's great, man. That's so
So that was
sweet.
great. So I went first in this one.
Ooh.
And if you ever want to be sold on the five Khorne Berserkers in the RB2K, I'm gonna fucking sell you on them right now because this was a game for five Berserkers. So I was like, all right, he scouts up, I scout up. He scouts up the beast pack, screens out his lines. Like, fair enough, completely expect
Yeah.
that. And I know I have to kill that beast pack squad because I mean, you said it when we were chatting. Those guys are annoying to deal with, right?
Yeah.
Ton of wounds, all bundled up in a nice little package.
Yeah.
So it's also Purge the Foe, which is actually good for me.
That's good for you for sure.
Super
The
good for me.
DE matchup for
Yeah.
sure.
So yeah, we line up and I take +2 move and sustained. I don't take advance and charge because the beast pack has come out. And I'm like
Okay.
looking at it, I'm like, I'm not feeling five Khorne Berserkers picking these guys up. It's not realistic. I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
not really feeling putting 3/8 bound into these guys either because I'd have to put the 3/8 bound and the Berserkers. So I was like, you know what? Use him early and get him back early. I'm gonna put Ron and the five Khorne Berserkers into the beast pack,
Amazing.
which is excessive, right?
Yes, that is
So
quite excessive.
quite excessive. Probably a bad play ultimately, but the thing is, there was only one Lance squad of Scourges. There was a Lance squad and a Haywire squad. So there was really
Okay.
only functionally one unit that could really hurt Ron in shooting, which I was like,
Okay, that's fair
you know
enough.
what? Maybe it's going to be okay. So I charge the five Zerks in, and I charge Ron in on the far end. And I think this is actually a really important tech piece that I did, which is good for people to know. So the Beast Squad has a character in there. And one of the worries that I always have when I multi charge two units into one is that one of my units will kill them in such a way that the casualty removal means the other unit can't actually activate. So I
Hmm.
based the character in the Beast Pack squad with Ron. So I was like,
Yep.
I'll fight with the Berserks first, and then no matter what way you pull casualties, Ron will be able to fight because the character dies last. I was like,
Yep.
you know what? It's a
100%.
pretty good play.
Very smart. Yep.
So, start rolling up the Khorne Berserkers. Roll the boys out normally. They get a bunch of sustain. They actually do pretty good. They pick up like quite a few bases, and I was like, oh, nice. So I roll the Eviscerator guy, 4 6s.
Sorry?
Yep.
What just
I was like, you know what? If ever there was a time that I was glad that my intuition said pick sustained, it was this.
what
So
the
the Eviscerator guy alone just ripped through the rest of the squad by himself. And
amazing.
then Ron was like, huh, I'm 3 inches away from a Kabalite squad and a Kronos.
Oh
So
no.
in he went. So I flipped the Kabalites and I took the Kronos down to like 2 wounds. And I was
That's
like,
the
you know what?
biggest brain play you've ever pulled off.
Honestly,
And
man,
it
roll
wasn't
sixes
even
and 40k
intentional.
becomes super easy.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, sick. That was awesome.
Amazing.
And
That's
I conned the
awesome.
Berserkers back through the wall, so they went back on the objective as well, which I
Yep.
was like, cool. Now I can sticky this if you shoot them off it, which is really
Yeah.
good for my primary.
Yeah.
So Bart lines up a pretty good turn. He has all the guns trained on Angron because Angron is literally towing his home field objective at this
Yeah.
point. So, and he dumps the big Incubi squad out on Ron as well.
Okay.
And before the game, we had that chat where we were like, "Oh, you got a lot of Haywire. It's probably not going to do a whole bunch in this game." We were so fucking wrong, dude.
Oh my
He
God.
got 4 natty 6s on the Talos, and they put a hole in Angron.
That's awful.
And I was just like, "Ooh, that's not great." So Angron went into Bart's charge phase on like 6 wounds, which I was like, not feeling the
Uh-oh.
vibe. And I'd spent 2
No.
CP for -1 damage, which I was like, well, I'm not doing that against 10 Incubi and an Archon.
Yeah.
So Ron died, which was sad. But Ron
Classic.
exploded, which was really
Oh,
good because it was in the middle of the Drukhari lines and he does D6 on the explosion.
what is
Sorry, this wasn't
happening?
Purge. This wasn't Purge. This was Linchpin. And this is why it's really funny.
Okay.
because when Ron exploded, he killed every single unit on Bart's home field.
Oh
And
my
I was
god.
like, this is the weirdest way I've ever fucked someone on linchpin. Like,
Man, you just like backed into absolutely annihilating someone, rolling
yeah,
the 496s on the Eviscerator and then exploding on their home field.
yeah.
And you just like,
And the best bit is
amazing.
the 5KB got shot by like a ton of stuff, and I lost four. So obviously, I kept the Eviscerator guy, who me and Bart had just called the hero at this point.
Yeah.
So then I was like, cool, I'm obviously auto passing this guy so I can get my linchpin points, but obviously it's the hero, so I'm going to auto pass his morale.
Yeah.
So I send him running into Bart's lines in my next turn, and I'm like, this guy is going for a Scourge squad. And Bart is like, you know what? He's not having any more. And he overwatched him with Talos and killed him, which I was like, honestly, kind of fair, because that guy probably flips like enough Scourges for it to be bad.
Oh yeah, like he gets four attacks. If you still have sustained, maybe it's three. Winning
Yeah,
on twos,
yeah.
getting sixes to save. Like
Anything can
kill
happen. Yeah.
kill three or four scourges, and all of a sudden that gets real bad. Like
Yep. So Bart set up very cleverly here, where the bottom objective had the Venom with Lilith, another Venom with Kabalites, and the two Talos on it. So that was a real hard one for me to crack, because I can't put enough force there to kill the Venom, kill Lilith, and deal with the Talos. The Talos are really good in combat. Like really, they're like
yeah,
Exalted 8 bound in combat.
they're
So they're
very
three
very
damage.
patchy.
So I was like, all right, I'll push up instead.
Yeah.
So I kind of have a really passive like turn here. I sent some jackals into a venom. They didn't kill it, which was a little bit annoying.
Yeah.
And elsewhere, I didn't really do much. I sent like one 8 band squad in, killed some things, but didn't really do a lot other than that. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna stage now and just see what you want to do after a really weird turn.
Yeah.
So Bard kind of pushes back against me. He flips the 8 band that I sent in. The jackals that I sent into the venom all end up dying. And the Talos are like gunning some angles that they have. And Lilith starts to kind of migrate towards my home objective. And I'm like, well,
Okay.
there's not much I can do about that. I'm not sending like the boys back, especially into a fight first character who can probably pick up most things that I send at her.
Yeah.
So I'm like, if you're going to flip my home field, I'll just flip yours. So I sent in like Mo and the boys on like a mission, and they charged I think 4 units at once. They charged like a Cabalite squad, 2 or 3 Venoms, I think, and just positioned in a way where I stretched them across the whole board. I was like, no matter where you move, I'm going to blood surge you somewhere. So
Yeah.
you basically can't shoot these guys. And my Exalted 8 band are still kind of like waiting for their moment to really push in. And my 3 have
Mhm.
come in at this point. They're doing little bits and pieces. So I push pretty hard. But crucially here, after mowing the boys' kills, use my blood dice, get Ron back. So I'm like,
Oh.
let's go. All right, we're in the money now. So we're
Yeah.
looking at it in Bart's turn. Because I'm like, obviously I'm going to rapid ingress. And I end up rapid ingressing in basically my deployment zone. I'm like, there's a perfect staging place here. Ron's coming in. You can't deal with him at all. He's going to
Yeah.
jump you in the next turn.
Mhm.
So this is great. So I'm at a point now where I just shove hard. Like Bart retaliates pretty well. That one objective with all the stuff on it, I'm like, I'm not going near it anymore. And Lilith does flip my home field, which is like pretty annoying, but it's fine.
Yeah.
I sent the 3 Exalted back to deal with her. They did not deal with her. They died, which I was like, oh damn. But Mo goes on a mission. He just bums through the lines. He kills like an Incubi squad. He kills the Archon out of it. The Archon's like, I've got a 2-up invul. And Mo's like, brother, I don't care. Here's 3 sixes. You're dead.
Get out of here. Go
So
away.
he flips my home for linchpin. I flip his home for linchpin. My Exalted go into the big Incubi squad. And a Raider and some other stuff as well. They like kill the Raider, kill the Venom, and then Ron batters all the Incubi, and I put like something like 7 saves on the Archon, and he made 6 of the 2-ups, and I was just like, oh god, but failed the last one, so then I battered the Archon into the sun.
Okay.
So in the end, we basically don't have like anything left, because in his next turn he retaliates and like picks up a lot of my stuff.
Yeah.
So he's just got a couple of Talos and like Lilith squatting on my home fields. I've got Mo and the boys and like Angron in the middle of the board, and we're just like both looking at each other, being like, "What the fuck was this game?" Because the way that we said it was like every time someone had their turn, it was like, "Wow, I just had an amazing turn. I think I'm gonna win the game." And then
Yeah.
the other person would have their turn, and you'd just be like,
It's a
"I'm gonna lose the game." like it's over, you know.
Yeah.
It was so
What
weird.
a
So
what a wild scenario.
yeah, and because we both flipped each other's linchpin, we ended up scoring really low. It was like 62-53 in the end,
Oh,
which
a tight one
was
though.
yeah, it was super tight, super tight. But it was an amazing game. Like it was really good fun.
Amazing. Love that. Well, that sounds awesome, man. What a great day one. I love those where you just like you've like conned yourself into being sick through the first day. You have some insane rolls, great opponents, beautiful armies. Like that's what it's all about, man.
Yeah,
So
for sure. What it's all about is that one eviscerator dude rolling four sixes. That's what it's all
the
about.
hero, the hero.
The hero, the hero. Oh, it
Oh,
was amazing.
amazing.
Yeah.
Love it. So you go into the evening. How you feeling? Get some
Uh,
much rest or what?
yeah. I mean, like I'm feeling, pretty nervy. I would say because I'm like, okay, obviously, 3-0 now. Looking at all the other people 3-0. I think there was three Team Ireland people on 3-0, two Northern Ireland guys on Team O or 3-0, and like a Necron player and a Knights player. So I was like, all right, I want those Knights, please. Like,
Yeah.
please give me those Knights. I'll pay anything to have the Knights, in fact.
You might have wanted to be more specific, from what I understand.
Yes, one of the Irish players, Colin, my one of my arch nemesis. I have many arch nemesis, but he's definitely one of them. Colin was playing Chaos Knights, and I ended up pairing Colin. So we were having dinner together, and Colin just looks up from his phone and looks at me and says, "Hello there," and I I knew immediately what was happening. That the bearings had gone up, and I was going into Colin, and we've paired. The only time I think that I've played Colin is at Broadsword when I've gone 3-0.
Okay.
This is the thing.
So
I just run into Colin there.
this man holds the candle to your wax wings.
Oh,
Like,
100%. Yeah, he is the
so,
sun. Like it's
all
either
right.
him or Dan. And
So time to get vengeance, right?
to be honest, Colin's a big Eldar player and GSC player, and if he'd brought either of those to Broadsword, I'm probably in a lot of trouble. But it's Chaos Knights and his 14
Yeah.
dogs. I'm like, you know what? We got play into 14 dogs.
We
Like we
do.
we
We
really
do.
do. He's got the player skill advantage, but I have the faction advantage. So I'm like, this might be good.
And you have the hero.
And I have the hero. I have the hero. Yeah, so we go into it. It's Scorched Earth, Crucible of Battle deployment, which is pretty
It's a weird
rough for
one.
both of us in terms of
Yeah, it's a
like we've
weird
got
one.
three objectives across the mid. You
Yep.
kind of got to get onto them pretty quick. You've got like a sort of a natural expansion, but it's not really. It's like quite an awkward objective. And then
Hmm.
you've got like obviously the opposite on the top, and you've got a midfield which is quite open. So I'm not feeling great about this, and I'm
Okay.
going down to breakfast, and I'm quite nervous. And I was staying with Mike, one of the other Team Ireland boys, and we were like eating breakfast, and he was like, "You know what you do? Put the six exalted eight band in deep strike." And I'm like, "You know what, man? Maybe that's a brilliant idea." It was not a brilliant idea. It was a really bad idea, like really bad. I was like, I'm gonna start the three exalted on the board and put the six in deep strike. And Colin said to me afterwards, he nearly had to stop himself jumping from joy when I said that to him at the table. Because it was just there was no reason to do it. I was just like in a fugue state, being
I
like, I need
I never
inspiration.
heard this before. I did not know that you.
I didn't tell you because I knew you'd be mad, and I said I'd get your reaction live. How do you feel about that play, Ryan? Like, tell me.
Ah, it hurts.
It does, yeah.
That beautiful plan that I had for you.
I know, I know. I did most
Oh,
of the rest of it. I did most of the rest of it.
oh my
Um,
goodness.
so yeah, we're setting up, and we're talking about the game and stuff, and we're kind of basically come to the same conclusion that whoever goes first here is at a huge disadvantage
Hmm.
because that person has to push onto those objectives. They're all quite open, all very easy to charge. You're basically giving someone 2 to 3 units for free because you've got to go out. So I end up drawing. I end up going first. Colin
Yeah,
rolled a one and I rolled a two. So I was like, God damn, I really tried. Um, and I drew like cleanse and area denial or something like that. So I was
that's
like,
the
oh,
worst.
gosh, I really have to go out here now. And it was the ritual as well. So was it the
What
ritual?
was-
No, the rituals of the last game. This was Scorched Earth.
Yeah,
So Scorched Earth is like, I think it's kind of shit for us. Like burning objectives just feels pretty annoying, right?
yeah. I don't like. I don't love it.
Yeah.
especially into that matchup, where like you want to spread them out,
Yeah.
like you want to force them to spread out, and so like you want to fight one dog at a time, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Just pick them off. I don't think
Yeah.
you want to fight like six dogs in a pack.
Yeah.
Um, but at the same time, maybe you do. Like Ron and 6 8 pound both love fighting masked dogs, so
Yes, that's true.
um,
However, Colin is very good at the game, so every single war dog was more than 6 inches away from any other war dog. So I couldn't multi-tap any war dogs with Angron.
he's like, nope, nope,
We were
not
basically
allowed.
like, here's Angron's base. Here's more than an inch from each one. I was like, yep,
Yep.
fair enough. So
Classic.
I end up having a pretty passive turn one. I put the jackals out in the top. I put 5 KBs in a rune near the middle, and I put Invo in the middle to do area denial. And I do cleanse on the top, cleanse on the bottom with the spawn. And, I'm like, cool, I've had to put out a bunch of units. The rest of my stuff is staged. So I'm
Yep.
like, if you aggro, I can push you. I know you're not going to aggro because you're smart. He did not aggro.
He just
he
Gatling gunned you.
Yeah, well, I mean, where he could, he did have to run a carnivore into the jackals on the top, and he ran a carnivore into the spawn on the bottom as well. So he kind of front loaded the carnivores, which I was like, huh. Ryan told me kill all of one dog if you can, so I was like, this
Yeah.
might be my opportunity. And then in the middle, I think he put possibly another. He might have just gone the middle, I think. Um, so it was kind of like pretty much what I expected to happen. And turn two rolls around, and I was like, looked Colin in the eye, and it was pretty much like, I'm only going to beat you if I push you really, really hard right now. No, sorry, this didn't happen yet. This will happen in turn three. In this turn, I have another passive turn. I basically like shove Ron into the top to flip the carnivore up there because
Yep.
where it was like quite an awkward angle for the brigands to cut. So I was like, Ron's up there. The brigands are all going to have to come out. So when they come out, if Ron lives through 5 brigands, I win the game.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is like, I'm okay with taking that risk. I'm not going to outplay Colin. I'm going to win by taking risks.
Yeah, for sure.
And he does really well. He lived through 4, and then he died.
Oh,
Just like, oh, Ron, so close. The first one did like 8 damage, and the next ones were just like 2, 2, 2. This kind of a way.
yeah.
And yeah, elsewhere there's not much happening. That bottom objective is just getting flipped between both of us each time.
Yep.
It's nothing crazy. So then I go for my push, and I've brought in my exalted as well at this point, a rapid ingress them behind a building and stuff. And I'm like,
Yep.
all right, I'm gonna push you so hard right now. So what I do is I send my 3 exalted for a really long charge into a carnivore. I send my 8 bound for a long charge into another carnivore. And I send Mo and the boys for a 5-inch charge into a different carnivore.
Okay.
So basically, I've lined up about what could be, I think it was like 5 dogs that I could kill. And like
Okay.
3 of them were like 7-inch charges. And I hit every single one. I was like,
Amazing.
maybe this is the turn. Like, I had like a conditional charge where it was like, I can hit the Stalker with 3 8 bounds if Mo and the boys hit their 5-inch charge into a carnivore. And Mo and the boys
Oh,
failed it, and I re-rolled it, and they failed it again. And I was like,
no.
oh, I think I just lost the game. Because then I had to send the 8 bound into that carnivore that they failed
Yeah.
into, which they got interrupted on, and 2 of them died. And I had fight on death up, but neither fought. And
Of course.
yeah, it was really annoying. So in the middle, the 5 KBs and the 3 8 bound flip a carnivore, the exalted flip a carnivore, and I flipped another one somewhere else. I think I ended up getting like 3, but it was like not enough. I
Just
needed 5.
one too few kind of thing.
Yeah, it literally was one too few, and it was down to Mo just bottling an easy charge.
Oh,
And it was honestly heartbreaking. Like I was like, I
it
could
is.
pressure you so hard and take off most of your combat, and then it's like, I don't know what you do after that. Um,
Yeah.
and then obviously everything that I pushed out got picked up in the turn after, except for Mo and the boys. They were still stuck behind the ruin that they failed, and the exalted were still there as well. So flipping into my kind of later turns, I've got the exalted and Mo, and I'm desperately farming Angron, and I'm getting 2 sixes like every time, but not the third one. My
Damn
jackals
it.
are like being bombarded by havoc launchers and dying, and it's all like going horribly wrong. So I'm like, desperate times, desperate measures. I like did this disgusting multi-wrap charge around a crate with the exalted 8 band. Because of coherency, I could only get like two into each dog, and they killed both of them. The hero was still alive at this point, and he's just walking around being like,
Amazing.
and then the Mo and the boys like flipped two more dogs, and but it's
Ah,
just it's not enough, it's
it's
just
just
not
too little,
enough
too
at this
late. Like
point.
he's still scoring, and
Yeah,
like he's got the
yeah.
dogs, and
And Mo and the boys had like tagged one dog, and I was like a hair of an inch. We had to like really carefully measure it. I was just barely outside the no fallback aura for the exalted 8 band.
oh
I couldn't get there with the consolidate.
yeah,
It was so sad. Like and it was because of that coherency string around the crate that the
yeah.
exalted couldn't make it, and that was really sad. Then I made a really big mistake where the exalted had tagged into a brigand, but one of my guys was on one wound, and I put that on the one guy who was tagging the
Oh
brigand.
no, and
So
he
then the
got
brigand
kicked.
shot him, and then they were open to be shot again, which I was like, what a huge blunder to make. So they all got picked up, and
Oh,
Mo and the boys got like shot up a lot. I just couldn't hold on. It was too much, and Ron not coming back, obviously, it
yeah.
hurt a lot as well. So Colin played exactly as he should have done, and yeah, it finished 88-56 to Colin. So I was
I
big
feel like
sad.
that is a bigger gap than the game maybe should have been because like it sounds like it was quite back and forth for a while, and
For
then
a
like it was
while,
like
it was.
that one charge kind of like messes up. You made some couple desperation plays that worked out. Like two exalted, each killing a dog is wild. Like
Yeah,
that's not math
yeah,
for the
yeah,
like especially with no anger on rerolls. Like
yeah. No,
that's
I mean,
insane.
good old sustained,
Yeah, love it. So,
Yeah,
but like it sounds like it was a close game. You made some Hail Mary plays that like almost paid off. The one play that should have worked didn't.
yeah.
Warhammer.
I
War
mean, it's
Warhammer.
it's one of those things, right, where I'm
Yeah.
like, going second would have been huge because it forces Colin to put some knights out on the table. So it's very like
Yep.
advantageous for me. I know where I can push.
Mhm.
So obviously losing like a couple of scoring units in turn one really hurt me there. And obviously, Ron not coming back sucks, but it is what it is. You can never like blame a game on that.
Yep.
Um, but Mo failing that charge, just the whole flank like kind of collapsed around him after that, which was
Yep.
real unfortunate. If I had had
For
the
sure.
capacity to, and like the thing is, when I had to charge the 8 band into that carnivore, they rolled high enough to have hit the stalker that I wanted them to go into. It's just one of those things, where I'm like, it was all there. It was all there.
Yeah. The pieces
Um,
were there. The cake just didn't get made from the ingredients.
yeah, yeah, it
Um,
was it was tough going. But I mean,
I'd
like it's
love.
not, it wasn't a tough loss to take in the sense of
Yeah.
like
No,
I
that's
was outplayed, and
honorable
I had to
victory.
make a
Honorable
desperation
victory.
play.
Yep. I'd love to hear about your thoughts now with the six exalted in reserves.
Oh, it was a terrible idea. It was such a bad idea. I don't know why I did it. If I had
So
had them on the board, I could have like done a really aggressive push in turn two.
yeah,
Why did I do that? It was crazy.
I don't know. I wasn't there. There might have been some drinking involved. I don't
No,
know.
it was just Michael knew that I was concerned and confused about the matchup, and maybe he wanted to sabotage me. I'm gonna
Oh,
put it
that
down
might
to
have.
that.
Um, God damn it, Mike. But no. So that because it's funny because like I've toyed with like rapid ingressing six exalted so many times because like that just appearing and then doing whatever it needs to do in the place it needs to do it sounds amazing, and then you realize that you don't have them just walk up the board, stage somewhere, and then just move the
Do it anyway.
four,
Yeah,
yeah, then just do it anyway,
yeah,
moving 14 the next turn. You're just like, oh god, that sounds so good. And then I have to spend rapid ingress CP. So,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I don't like on paper. It's not the worst idea ever. It's just like
I think if I
after
went second, it would have been really good.
if you went second, that actually does sound hilariously juicy because like
Yeah,
he's got a really screen now. Like all
yeah,
of a sudden, like he's gonna hold multiple dogs back to screen. I would have loved to see the outcome, obviously with the turn order flipped.
yeah.
Um,
Well, Colin said that he thinks the score would have inverted if the turn order flipped. I don't necessarily know if that's true because Colin is just an insanely good player. So
mhm.
I wouldn't necessarily say that. It might have been a closer game. Maybe I managed to take the win. Um, but who knows? You know, we'll never know. It
We'll,
was an
we
amazing
will
game.
next Broadsword when you go 3-0 after day one
Maybe.
and face Colin again.
I mean, I will.
That's the natural order of things.
Seems to be. Seems to be. It was a really good game though, and like I think the most important thing for me coming away from that game was like when I've played Colin before, I was extremely anxious because I was very very aware of how big the skill gap was.
Hmm.
But in this game, I didn't really have like anxiety. I was just like, you know
That's
what,
great.
rock up. I'll play my game. I know what I need to do. I know, and like recognizing that I needed to push hard to get the win.
Yeah.
I came away from it and I was like, honestly, I played like pretty much as well as I could, other than putting the Exalted in reserve. Apart from
Yeah.
that, I was like, I played a good game of Warhammer. Didn't work out. I'm not salty about it at all. You know.
100%, man. Like, and there's lessons to be learned. Like, and I would, like, I know that you're pumping up Colin here, and he seems like a great dude, and obviously a strong player if he's on Team Ireland. But yeah, I don't think that the skill gap isn't always as big as it seems. You play a lot, you look at the game a lot, talk about the game a lot. I think you're quite good, and the records that you're putting up is showing that. And I think that you're definitely you're starting to kill it, man. So that's really cool to see. And taking these guys to the mat, like that's awesome, man.
I was
Um,
glad I kept him off the 100.
there you
I'll
go.
say that.
Kept
And
him
I
out
was
of the
glad I scored
90.
56.
You
Yeah.
kept him out of the 90.
Yeah, yeah. I think the last time we played it was like 100 to 30 or something. You know, it was
Oof.
like, so it really brought the differential in. So honestly, that and the consistent 4-1 now is really one of those things that's making me be like, recognizable skill growth, which is like, you know, it's nice. Like, I'm not
Yeah,
like
for sure.
super
100%.
tied to it, but I'm like, oh, it feels good, you know? So yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so we got a 3-1.
Hmm.
You're staring your fated day two blunder to go 3-2 in the
Dude, I'm
face.
stressed.
What do you feel stressed? You
I'm like,
stressing right
what's
now?
Ryan going to say to me if I go 3-2? Like, is he going to kill me? Like,
No? Why would I do that? You're lovely,
I
Dara.
was stressed.
Oh,
I was stressed, bro. I was like, I can't be the first person who goes 3-2 with the RB2K. You know, it's like the
oh,
shame of
that
that
is
would
true.
be
You would be
that would be
shamed.
rough. You know,
Um, although I couldn't imagine if you went 3-2 and put your exalted in reserves. That would be messed up. I would.
I think if I went 3-2 and then you found out I put my exalted in reserves, I think I'd be in big trouble. To be
This would be
honest,
a very different podcast right now.
we might
Or
not be able to record this.
no,
You know, it might
you'd
get a
have to
bit too
get
heated.
Jamie. I'd walk out.
Yeah, like I can't do it. I wouldn't be able to face you. You know, it's like the shame, the knowledge of my failure.
No, man, it's awesome. Like
Thankfully,
it's
it did not
all
happen.
about trying some stuff. Like you tried a thing, didn't work out. Probably won't try it again. And like
Nobody try that again. I have road tested it for everyone. It's a bad idea. Just don't
it's
do it.
horrible.
It's such a bad idea.
Um, all right,
So
so we're going into game five now. You're stressed. You need to lock up the 4-1.
yeah,
What's going on?
I'm stressed, man. Like the 3-1 bracket is like insanely sharky. Like there's like multiple really good players there.
For sure.
Mike from Team Ireland on his Blood Angels is there,
Oh,
and I'm like, brother, I do not want to play you. Like, I mean, I do. Like, I love
yeah.
playing against Mike, but I'm like, I don't want that to be like the stress of Game Five. You know, especially because
Yeah.
like we potentially have to drive back together. Like,
So then you just like not looking at him the whole way.
yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, so it's a lot of stress. So I'm playing into Hugh on Grey Knights, and
Ooh,
I mean,
okay.
yeah, this is a spicy one. Like I've wanted to play Hugh for a while. He's like always at Broadsword. We always have like a bit of a chat, you know, and I'm like, I feel like we'd have a really good game if we get to play. So we do, which is great.
Yeah.
Except it's Grey Knights, which is fucking terrifying because that is like that's a stressful game, man. You know, like. How do you feel about the Grey Knights? Because it always stresses me out.
You reserve your A power. You're exalted.
So genuinely, like
This is where you preserve them. This is the matchup.
I did it one game too early, right? But guess what I didn't do in this game?
Reserve your exalted 8 power.
Exactly. Yeah, I started them on the board because I learned from my mistakes. You
Oh, did
know,
you?
it's so bad.
This
It's
is
so dumb.
amazing.
But
Um,
no, for real, I couldn't because we were playing
okay.
the ritual. And I was like,
Ah,
okay, I can't have the boys in reserve if it's ritual. I need to be present on the board. And I need to
mm,
push him. He's going to be spawning objectives in his zone. I need to
yep.
flip those ASAP because he's eventually going to flip mine. Um,
Yeah.
So Hugh's list is pretty cool. I guess it's like, I don't know if it's standard GK or not, but there's two regular Dread Knights and a Grandmaster. There's Drago. There's a character in Terminator armor. There's a Librarian. There's a Paladin brick. There's a Terminator brick. There's double strikes, and there's a Caladius Assassin. So I'm like, okay,
Sounds pretty stock standard, like mostly Grey Knight good stuff.
yeah,
Like it's not quite the skew in either direction that I've experienced before, like the Dreadnought spew, or the 30 Terminator brick, the 30 Terminators with characters. It's not that either. So that sounds like just like he went for a balanced Grey Knight's list. That's just gonna teleport all over you and do all kinds of things. So
yes, and that is correct.
okay,
So I went second in this one, which was
yep,
huge. Going second in the Grey Knight
yes,
game is amazing because he can't do the
yes,
pick up drop in turn one. So I was
get
like,
out of here.
hallelujah. Like, that's so good. It might actually have
Yep,
literally saved the game immediately.
yep,
Um, so Hugh has a pretty conservative turn. He spawned some objectives. He put the Calidus out to do containment. He put some strikes out to do containment,
yep,
and spawn a couple or spawn a single objective, and everything else was just like sitting in his home base because it was about to be not sitting in his home base.
yep.
And did all the correct stuff. Measured out all my threat ranges. Was like, cool. I'm not giving it to you. I was like, yep, correct. I still put up advance and charge and +2 move because I was like, yeah, I might rush something. I don't know. I'm feeling freaky.
Well, you threaten it, right? It
Yeah.
forces him to play differently. Like if you don't like, I always try to take advance and charge as often as possible because all of a sudden when you don't have it, your threat ranges shrink so
Yeah.
rapidly.
Yeah.
And all of a
Honestly,
sudden you find that people like putting just like models just at the edge of your threat range and you're just like, ah, this is
yeah.
dumb.
Taking it as a deterrent for your enemy's
Yes.
movement is probably my
Yes.
favorite thing with advance and charge. And
Hmm.
like, it was funny because like as I was setting up my turn one movement, Hugh said it to me. He's like, "Why don't you play like every other world leader player? Just run at me." And I was like, "No, no, I'm not that kind of world leader player." So I
I
set
know.
up this massive stage in
Yep.
my deployment zone, and I blocked out every possible 9-inch deep strike in my
Yep.
deployment zone and my half
Amazing.
of the board. In fact,
Perfect.
I was screening with Exalted, I was screening with Angron, I was screening with Rhinos. I like got mowing the boys out of the Rhino after it moved so I could push my screen further away.
Amazing.
Um, I put two things forward: the hero and his four friends, and I put two spawn forward. The hero and his
Oh,
four friends went into a Caladius Assassin, which I was like, if I can grab this right now,
oh my
huge.
God, that's
Yeah.
delicious.
I saw the line. I was like, okay, you've pushed her out to do containment. Probably a misplay because I can grab this right
Yeah.
now. And if I can grab this, game's mine. If you're making my -1 damage, 2 CP, if you're making my combat or sorry, 3 CP, if you're making my combat interrupt 3 CP, I can't play this game. So
Yeah.
I don't care. Take her out immediately. And I sent my spawn into 5 strike marines being like, yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
Who knows? The answer was they cannot do it. They did not kill one. And then I lost the spawn, which I was like, ah,
What?
rude.
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have Feel No Pain up, so, fair
Yeah.
enough. But,
Fair enough.
and then the Caladius fought first and killed 4 of the Zerks. So,
What?
of course, the hero stands up and just
Oh my!
vump straight into.
You kidding? He did it by
Yeah,
himself though.
yeah,
What
yeah.
a hero!
He's
Oh,
amazing, dude. He's literally
hey,
amazing. Just like
this is like he needs
put
like the
4 saves in
name
her.
written on his base now. Like,
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do something with this model because he
oh my
pulled through in every
God,
game.
what a champion!
So that was huge. That was huge. And even I was fine even if he didn't kill her because she's stuck there,
Yeah,
Like she can't be picked up. So obviously Hugh picks up a ton of stuff like multiple Dread Knights and I think a Strike Squad was the other thing that he picked up.
yep,
But oh no, sorry, the Brotherhood Librarian. And the Brotherhood Librarian drops in my deployment zone to do recover assets, I think it was, and he does it across the board in other places. And he's spawning like a bunch of objectives in his deployment zone area. I'm doing the same with mine. And Dread Knight drops in and rescues the Strike Marines from the one spawn that's left. I was like,
yep.
ooh, spicy place to put a Dread Knight. There's like some 8-bound here who can come in and clap you. So I rapid ingress my Exalted 8-bound right there.
Hmm.
And I had 3 8-bound there as well. Obviously, we had the whole thing of like, if I move these guys out, are you going to miss? Ooh. Like
Ooh.
El Clasico. and he did miss, which I was like, fine, it's
Fair
okay.
enough.
But he didn't pick it up. He wanted to like bait in a charge, basically. And I was like, oh, that's a bit spicy. I like it. So that was fine. I was like, I'm not going for a long bomb charge, only to have my exalted like stand out in the front and lose them for no
Yeah.
reason. So I sent. I hated having to do this. You're gonna hate it as well. I sent 3 8-bounds into the top left corner to kill the Brotherhood Librarian, just because I was like, I can't
No,
have this guy like hanging
that's
in.
amazing. 100%.
Man,
That's the
it
take out
was
the librarian, you stop them from doing a recover, you force them to hold it. Like
just it felt awful.
it feels awful, but
Yeah,
like nothing else kills a Terminator guy just hanging out, right?
yeah,
Like 3 8-bound, just 100%. You stop the scoring, you kill the scrap. They are fast enough to get back into the fight later.
yeah. No, it had to be done. Had to be done.
Yep, 100%
And
right there.
I set up in the mid with the 6 exalted and the Mo Rhino. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna fly Angron up and over a wall and just go for like I think it was a 7-inch charge into the strikes, which I made a 6 because I was like, oh, Angron doesn't need reroll hits to kill 5 strikes. Plot twist, he does. He definitely does. I killed 3, which I was like,
Ooh,
oof. So
that
that,
sucks.
that was pretty annoying. But I was like, all I want to do here is use Angron, and I actually, I kind of thought this was a cool play. So I was very scared of. I had broken my screening at this point because I needed to set up for a go turn. So I was like, how do I make sure that shit doesn't drop behind me and gun my exalted and Mow in the back? And I was like, oh, I'll fire Angron into 5 strike marines in your deployment zone and say, well, if you pick up the Terminators and the Paladins and the Dread Knight,
There's nothing to do with this.
what are you going to do about Angron? So,
Yep.
I was like, I'm forcing you to keep these models here so you can kill Angron, which I thought was a really good play, actually,
It is.
because it meant that I had my Exalted and Mow to dump in the next turn. So, Hugh's turn rolls around. There's like a freaky fight happening in the bottom right corner between like Invocatus, 3 8-bound, and one of the Dread Knights. Neither can kill the other. It's happening, and we're both kind of confused about it, but it's whatever,
Yeah.
So he puts those 3 units, the Dread Knight, the Paladin Brick, and the Terminators into Ron, and he just about kills them. I actually like almost lived through the first activation, which would have given me an interrupt, which would have
Oh.
been real good. I think I barely died to the Paladin Brick. But it was okay because Ron fought on death. And I was like, let's go,
Oh,
baby.
yeah.
I'm going to hammer this Dread Knight who is screening out both of these bricks from my massive dump charge in the next turn. And Ron put 3 wounds on the Dread Knight. And I was like, this is not cash money at all. Like,
No, we're not in the money here.
so I was literally like, well, I guess in my head I was like, I can justify this. I just didn't fight on death. That's how I'm going to justify this. I rolled a 3, not a 4. It's fine.
Yeah, what are you talking about?
Totally fine.
Oh god.
So then I was like, right, now there's a Dread Knight screening Drago's unit of Terminators, which I was like, well, I can't get him now, which is super frustrating.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I still have to have that go turn. Meanwhile, there's like also a really weird fight happening in my deployment zone between those 2 Strike Marines that lived to Angron and like my Jackals. This fight will continue for 3 whole battle rounds with
What?
neither doing anything to the other. It's
That's
wild.
wild.
It's wild. And the hell fight in the bottom is still going on, and somehow the Dread Knight only has like 3 wounds left, and my Exalted and Invocatus are both still alive, which I'm
And
like,
they won't die.
okay, like Invo is like slowly dying every turn, but he's like, I won't die yet. I am needed. And he was needed. So keep in mind that those 2 fights are happening because
Yeah.
it's very important for what happens on my go turn. So my regular 8-bound are sprinting to like get back to the battlefield from having killed the Brotherhood Librarian.
Yep.
And I dump the Exalted and I dump Mo Squad in. And I put Mo Squad into the Dread Knight and I put the Exalted into the Paladin Brick. And I had
Okay.
to do Advance and Charge and I had Fight on Death and Feel No Pain up because of having Angron be
Yeah.
where he was. So
Yeah.
I was like, okay, we go. So I put the mode in. I was like, I don't have Sustained. Sustained is apparently the thing that makes me win games. I need to get Sustained. Hugh
Yeah.
did not have enough CP to interrupt. So I was like, okay, I will farm Sustained elsewhere. So I start off with the Jackals fighting the 2 Strike Marines. I'm like, you gentlemen will get me Sustained. They did not. They didn't kill a single Strike Marine. I was like, God damn it, boys. So I was like, all right, surely 3 Exalted 8 pound and Invocatus will be able to like, because I charged in the Exalted into this like 3 wound Dread Knight. It's like,
Yeah.
surely, come on, boys, you can do it. They could not do it either, which means I was like, oh fuck, this is going badly right now, like really badly. So I was like, okay, Mo and 10 can probably get a 9 wound Dread Knight. Like they probably just can. I was like, I don't need to stay in there, but I need it on the Exalted 8 pound no matter what happens.
Yeah.
Mo and 10 did not kill the Dread Knight. They took it down to 2 wounds. And I was like, at this
What
point, I
is
was like
happening
literally
here?
head in my hands, being like, I am losing this game in my own go turn. Like it's the sand was falling through my fingers. Like Angron was
Oh,
like laughing at me from the warp. I was just like, oh
this is the
no.
worst.
So I
I'm like
went
really
into the
having
Paladins.
anxiety listening to the story.
Oh, I went
Oh,
into the Paladins and I killed 2. And I was like,
the stream's over, guys. We're cutting it here. We're done.
bro, I was like,
Oh,
this is not it. This is just not it at all. Like, can you imagine how I felt in that moment? Like,
I have felt similarly in other games, and I know exactly like that's literally I'm like heartbroken right now for you because this is the worst.
it
Like,
it was, and like, I pride myself on not getting tilted at dice, and I wasn't tilted. I was laughing. Me and Hugh were laughing a lot
yeah,
about this. We were just like, because it was a lot of like me not rolling great, him rolling a lot of 4s and stuff, and I was just like, God, you're literally like all powerful. Like the Dread Knights were just like 4, 4, 4. I was like, man, you're crazy, like And at one point he picked up all my dice and he was like, I'm gonna turn these against you, and then he like was like, actually they've been rolling really bad, so he just like put them down and like counted them out to pick up his own dice. So I was just like, all right. So, consequently, because I did not get to use my 1 CP to throw up an extra blessing, I was like, you know what? I guess I ditch a card and I go into use turn on 3 CP, which I was like,
yeah,
maybe I can do something.
yeah.
Um, so, obviously, he can't pick anything up anymore because everything's in combat.
Everything's touched.
So
Yeah,
there's like a couple of strikes which are still spawning objectives, and I'm just like, oh, whatever. I think it's the ones that like live to the spawn. It was like salt in the wound. The strikes were just like, ha, we lived when we shouldn't, and I'm like, God damn it, guys.
you
Um,
bastard.
so at this point, Drago and the boys charge in as well. Sorry, they did they charge in? Yes, they did charge in. No, they didn't actually. He went on the middle objective because he had to do like a bunch of actions or something. And he
Okay.
was like, I trust, because the Dread Knight had swung back and killed a bunch of berserkers as well.
Oh,
And he was like, I trust that the paladins can bully their way through the remaining 5 exalted 8 pounds.
yeah,
I was like, yep, probably. Because on the swing back in my turn, the paladins only killed 1 8 pound, which I thought
yeah.
was pretty funny. Um, so I was like, fine, I'm just gonna clench my butt cheeks, do -1 damage, and like pray. And the praying worked. Let me tell you, did the
Yes.
praying work? I was just like 5, 5, 5, 5. Feel no pains. 5, 5, 5, 5.
Oh, the fives are
It
real.
was great. Mo did finally get that Dread Knight, which was
I
big,
bet. Yes. Thank goodness.
and the 8 pound like killed another couple of paladins. I was down to like 3 exalted from 6, which I was like, okay, that's actually a pretty good situation.
Yeah.
And then that Dread Knight that was fighting Invo and the Exalted finally died, which I was like, okay,
Yes.
there's things happening. And the Strikes and the Jackals continued to do nothing to each other, which I was just
I
like,
don't know how strikes aren't killing jackals.
they're
That's
killing
that
like
is.
1 or 2 every time, but I'm just like double fiving on the Feel No Pains like all the
Oh,
time, just
you're
being
a
like, all right,
monster.
whatever. Like, it's like the tar pit of hell in my deployment zone, basically.
Yeah.
And the worst bit is we're fighting, like, both of our units are on 3 objectives because of where we spawned them. So I'm like, oh, this is such an important fight, and I wish it wasn't. This is a huge primary swing, whoever wins.
Yeah.
Um, so in my next turn, I'm like, I've got the Exalted, and I've got Mo and the boys. Invo and the other 3 Exalted are, like, in a corner. I run the 3 Exalted to kill the Strikes and flip, like, his 3 ritual objectives so I can like
Yep.
straddle all of them and just like control all of them. So I'm like, no matter what happens, because I'd been zeroed on primary in one of these turns, it's like I need to claw my primary back.
Yeah.
Invo was just like, I don't know, he might have been dead at that point, I can't remember. He was
Get me
somewhere
right.
or dead.
Yeah.
So I took a bit of a risk and I charged Mo and the boys into the Paladins and Drago's unit.
Ooh.
and I couldn't, because of where they'd ended up after their initial consolidate from killing the Dread Knight. I couldn't get Mo into Drago at all. He was going
Oh
to have to
no.
go into the Paladin. So I was like, I'm taking a big risk here, but I needed to. There was like
Yeah.
one Exalted 8-bound champion left at this point, just being like, free me. Oh yeah, the Paladins failed their no fallback check. That's why it was
Ooh.
pretty big as well.
That's big. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's why they were stuck there in the previous turn. So Mo and the boys kill the last of the Paladins, and they kill like one Terminator. But then on the swing back, I only lose like two Berserkers, which I was like,
What?
amazing. So Mo is like consolidating, being like, I'm coming for you, Drago.
Next turn.
Exactly. Um, so I consolidate enough onto the point that I flip control of it, which is pretty big because we're going into
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, also when I killed the Paladins, I revived Angron with the Blood Dice, which I was just like, at this
Oh,
point,
by the way,
but it doesn't matter, right? Because we're
just a
going into
little
like
side note.
we're going to turn 5. I'm like, all right, Dad, you're finally back with the milk, and it's like too late. The house is on fire, you know. Um, so he draw, and we're looking at the score, and the score is like insanely close. And I'm like trying to do defend, and I'm like, those jackals need to just do what they've been doing for one more turn because like my home field objective was right behind all that shit. I was like, hold the 2 strikes at all costs.
Yeah.
So he was like, I can't pick up Drago's unit, so I can't teleport there and stop your defense. And we were looking at the primary, and I was like, I'm going to get 15. You're going to get 0, no matter what happens in turn 5.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, wow, the score is really close. And we're like, we're doing the thing where you're like, we need to work out which secondaries can be drawn here. Like, what's the situation? And he draws overwhelming force, which I was like,
Oh no.
fuck, that's bad. Because he's like, all I need to do is live through Mo's activation and kill the last of the Berserkers. And then I have to have my strikes finish off the last of the Jackals. And I get both the points for overwhelming. And I was like, I would need to have a god tier draw to win the game from that. We were looking at it, it was like he was going to win by like 2 points. And I was just like, okay, fair enough. The cards say that's how it is.
Yeah.
So Mo is like, the cards don't say shit, brother. And he just bangs the Terminator squad.
Oh.
I was like, he got like something like 4 6s and put like,
Sustained.
like
Yeah.
I was obviously, having to do the invulnerables first, and Drago died to like the saves and 1 mortal. So then like some of the mortals like spilled over and killed Terminators, which I was like, great. Even through the 4, feel no pain, got like 2. Then my Eviscerator boys, I'm sure it was the hero. It was actually him in disguise. Just like carved up the rest of them. There was like 2 Terminators left, and then he was like, I can't do it. I can't flip you off the points. It's And then my Jackals were like, we're gonna hold on for 1 more turn. And I was like, good stuff, guys.
Those assholes.
So doesn't get overwhelming, which we're like, the game is sealed now. I get my 15 on primary. I draw Sabotage, so I respawn Angron in a ruin in its deployment zone, and my Rhino like drives down and does like, what was it? Like establish locus in his deployment zone or something.
Oh, dude, that's a juicy turn.
It was a juicy final turn, yeah. So
that's a 26-point final turn.
It was something like that, I think. Yeah, it was real.
I think it's a 25-point final turn because locus is 4.
Yeah. So I finished 74-62 with the win there.
So there you go.
Huge swing in the final turn. Yeah, huge swing.
Love that. Amazing, man. Well, congratulations. That sounds like a really crazy game. That sounds really fun.
It was.
And yeah, you guys had a great time.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah, we hugged it out at the end because we were like, that was a wild game,
Yeah,
like it was.
That's crazy.
Like the game, we were saying it, the game like fell out of both of our control. Like the game was playing itself. We were just like, all right, okay, you do what you need to do, game. Like
you guys were just like had popcorn watching the shenanigans unfold.
Dude, when I had that go turn and everything whiffed,
the
rock in my stomach was big. It was tough.
That's so horrible.
Yeah.
Well, so you clapped the broadsword boogeyman off your back.
A little bit. You
go 4-1. You're rocking it out. And how you feeling at the end of that event? Obviously.
Yeah, it was good. It was really like 5 amazing games. I had so much fun in all of them, and just really happy. Like I said, kind of hitting that consistency now. Really vibing with the RB2K. It is the best World Leaders list for singles. There isn't any shadow of doubt in my mind. Like
just putting the gavel down.
It just is. You know, like I've played a ton of variation. You know, like I've played a lot of wacky lists over the
Yeah.
last year. I've played a lot of really good lists. This list is the best list I've played since I started playing 10th edition. There's
Well, that's
no
awesome, man.
questioning it, you
Love
know?
to hear it. Yeah, I'm really excited to use it. I think I'm locked into it for the worlds.
Mm,
Although Brian is trying to Jedi mind trick me into taking a Forge Fiend. Um,
that man needs to calm down.
so he's yeah, we're working on it.
Mm,
Um, but so anyway, I've got a little few questions here for you from the Discord.
yes. Yes, you
But
do.
so I think we're gonna start with those. The first one was from TMNT,
So
and
these are from our Patreons, by the way.
yeah,
So
this is from our
if
Patreon.
you wanna get a chance to like bug us, drop into the Patreon. It's a great way to support the channel, and you get to ask us fun questions. So what do we got for me?
Absolutely. So TMNT says, what has been the biggest challenge of piloting the RB2K? What are its main weaknesses? What steps have you taken to shore up these weaknesses?
I think the biggest challenge is like getting a good understanding of the correct way of using Angron, the Six Exalted, and Mo, because they all have like pretty different uses, even though they're the three hammers. And if you throw one of those pieces, you lose the game. You know,
Yeah,
so it's about assessing each matchup and knowing, Angron needs to go to X, these guys need to go to Y, Mo needs to go to Z, and if you make a mistake in making those choices, it's real bad times. Like having one of those three pieces throw a really important area or collapse a flank, as was the case in my Chaos Knight game,
yep,
it's a disaster. So I think that's a aspect of the RB2K which is difficult if you're not familiar with number one what those units can kill, but arguably more importantly what those units can survive through. You
Mhm.
know, because you need all three of those to be active through more than one combat. I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't wholly disagree there. Like, I obviously love them to be active for more than one combat. Um, I think that you can get away with one of them just like killing a really big threat and then sacrificing. But the flip side of that is it also has to eat a lot of damage in return.
Yeah, yeah,
Like you have to like it has to kill something and then be like the magnet for all the damage like Angron was in your game
that's completely fine. Yeah, if
where like you
you,
held up a whole flank. You didn't
yeah,
have to kill multiple things. He just like did some work for you and then drew a lot of attention. Um, but
yeah,
100%, I think that's one of the weaknesses of the list is it does have these three hammers, and they're not. Excuse me, they're not overly redundant. Like like
yeah,
they each have like a very different profile. Like you've got Angron who's like clapping vehicles. You've got Exalted with a mass of 2 damage attacks, and then you've got 10 Berserkers with a billion 1 damage attacks, and then Mo who's gonna do Mo things.
yeah.
Um,
Angron's like the most redundant, and even then, it's like doesn't feel that redundant.
it is like they don't. What I mean is like they're not redundant against each other. Like I don't
Yeah,
think like if you want something to go pick up 2 Redemptor Dreadnoughts, nothing else does that except for Ron. If you
yeah,
want something to go kill 10 ACD or 25 ACDC or whatever the model count is, none of that does that except for Mo and 10. If
yes,
you want, something to kill like a huge swath of 2 wound Marines with invuls or something like that, nothing really does that except for the Exalted. And so you don't really have you like you were saying to your like credit, I guess, is that that you need to pick the right puzzle piece. It's not that YouTube video where everything fits into the square hole.
unfortunately not. Yeah,
It's
I
you
do think
gotta
it's interesting though. Like when I started, committing to the RB2K, I figured the thing that I was going to struggle with the most was learning how to pilot Angron correctly again because
yep.
it had been a year.
Hmm.
And I historically hate playing with centerpiece models.
Okay.
But in this list, it's like there's something about the flow of the list where it's like every single time I take him out, I'm like, I know exactly where he needs to be and exactly what he needs to do. And I think
That's
it
awesome.
speaks to the construction that you've done with this list, where it's kind of like, yep, I know exactly what needs to happen, and it just works. So it was really nice not to have that be the learning curve of the RB2K for me, I
There you
think.
go. That's awesome. Well, thanks for the question, TMT. That's awesome. Yeah, I actually really like that question because that's a so I guess actually there was a second half that we maybe didn't address is what steps have we taken to shore up those weaknesses?
Yeah, it's an
Um,
interesting one. Yeah.
that's an interesting one. Um, if while you're thinking there, I would like I mentioned just a little while ago is Brian thought to drop three Exalted and bring in a Forge Fiend. And that
Mm.
adds some shooting, that adds some reliable three damage. And I think it's mainly just because he has some Custodes trauma. His
I
friend's
think
gotten
that might be a
scammed by
big part of it.
wardens,
Yeah.
and he just wants to shoot them off.
Mm.
Um,
I love the 3/8 bound in reserve though, man. Like the three
that's exactly
exalted.
it, right?
Yeah,
It's like
it's so
what
good.
I think it's matchup and meta dependent in that like I don't think there's a wrong call. I think it's what are you do you think you're gonna face, right? If you think you're gonna face 18 Dress Shrouds or 18 Wardens, I would trade the three Exalted for a Forge Fiend in a minute.
Yeah.
Like no time at all. But Tau, GSC, Guard, Sisters, you want that no fallback aura, you want that little squad to go pick up something and touch some other stuff. Meanwhile, the Forge Fiend is not going to do much into most of those things. Like they're all either T10 or T3 and doesn't care either way. Um,
The Fortune's gonna feel better in some games, and then the Exalted will feel better in others. And
exactly.
it's the simple
Um,
answer, you know?
yeah. Unfortunately, I don't think with where World Leaders is, there's not a lot of weaknesses to shore up with the RB2K because it's a toolbox list. It has kind of every tool that you need except for shooting realistically.
Yeah.
Um, so if you are looking to add your shooting to the mix, then you bring in a Forge Fiend. But I think the only unit you can actually drop to do that is the three Exalted, and so you
Oh
lose
yeah.
then
Yeah.
your Rapid Ingress, which is not a small piece at all. But yeah, thanks for the question. That was amazing. Um, one from Rin. Which model is Dara's favorite painted model in the army?
Oh, it's a tough one. In the RB2K, I would say it is probably my Lord Invocatus, the guy with the huge banner.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Can we get a picture of him in
I'll,
the
I'll
in
I'll
the
make it
video?
pop up. Yeah, yeah. I call him the
Perfect.
Firekeeper. He's my boy. Yeah, I
Amazing,
really like that
amazing.
one. Or
Awesome.
potentially the hero.
The hero. Ooh, ooh. We need a hobby video of the hero now.
I'll work on that. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thanks so much, Ren, for the question. It's awesome. We've got one from Jason. And it's like, what's next in the Dara brew? So he's meaning the list here. What's your next list that you
Yeah.
think you're going to take? And I guess we'll add into that. What is your next event?
So I'm running a bunch of events for the next while. My next event will probably be like maybe an RTT or something. But I think I'm done for this season, unfortunately. There's a lot going on outside of 40K for me right now.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
I think realistically, my next event will be watching you and Brian at WCW. That will be a big
Oh,
event for me, you know?
I uh, I'm so over here sweating already.
Yeah, yeah, but I'm hyped for it, you know. And
Yeah,
so I
it's gonna
think
be
I'm
exciting.
I'm gonna be, we kind of mentioned it, taking a bit more of a hobby based role on the channel for the next while, which involves a lot of kind of time doing some good editing and getting some good videos out and ready. And yeah, just due to a host of variety of life stuff that I probably won't actually be able to hit a tournament potentially until like next February at the earliest in terms of like a big GT. So it's very bittersweet that this could be like my last outing with the RB2K,
Yeah,
because I'm loving it so much.
you killed
So
it. You killed it.
what's next in the brew is really hyper dependent on what December holds for us. There's some spicy
There's
rumors in the pipe
there's
about
some
things,
rumors.
which maybe we'll get into in another video. But
That would be a fun video.
yeah, I'll be probably back on non-gron for a little while, depending on how the slate goes. If
Yeah.
the slate is much the same as it currently is and we don't actually get any changes, I'll keep to the RB2K. But if there's something which tickles the non-ground fancy, I'll probably fall into that hole again.
All right. Well, looking forward to it. Looking forward to it. Well, thanks for the question, Jason. And we've got two from R2. And the first one is, are there any armies that Dara used to be more comfortable playing against, but are now tougher to face, and vice versa? So I guess there's two questions in one. Is there anyone that you're more comfortable with now um, than you were?
Chaos Knights was so much easier on non-gron. Like, it's not
Yeah?
even funny. Yeah, it was so much easier.
Like you
Um,
found it easier before you had Ron in your list.
Yeah, before like my old non-Gron list, which was the 21 Exalted 8 band list,
Oh yeah.
with the 4 up from the Demon Prince. That list ran through Chaos Knights so
Oh, I
well.
bet. I bet.
So I've noticed that that one has suddenly. It was weird. Like the first time I played them on the RB2K, I was like, "Oh God, this is hard now."
Yep.
So
Um,
yeah, that one's become tougher for sure. I've and pretty much most other games have become easier because
so yeah, so vice versa, things like, um, yeah, I'd be interested to see like Dark Eldar would be interesting because like it seems like you would want more units there, but Ron stands so well up to like most of their
yeah,
damage.
yeah,
Um,
that one's I would say
it's an
like
interesting one.
comes out pretty neutral. You know, when
Depends
you
on their
have the
list.
yeah, when you have the more units and you spam Exalted 8 band and they're like LD7, you're just like, all
Yeah,
right.
yeah. Get out of here.
Yeah. So yeah, I would
Um,
say Chaos Knight is the one that I've noticed the most as being like, oh, this is like awful now.
Boo. Um, all right, and the last one from R2 is: Does Dara think he will switch to a more aggressive playstyle now with Angron, or continue with a more defensive style list with the non-Gron list? So I think we kind of covered this one
Yeah. As Hugh
a
said to
little
me,
bit.
why don't you just run at me like other World Eater players? Like, no,
Yeah,
you can
is
play
it out?
RB2K hyper defensive.
Yeah, and that's I actually answered this question um, in the other World Leaders Discord earlier today. Actually, was I think that's one of the coolest things about the list is that like three different players, three different countries, three different styles of play, and it's rocking.
Yeah.
And so I play insanely aggressive. I'm yeeting at you every turn I can. Like just like here we go. And then you're a more passive player. Like you're telling me you're saging for 2 turns. My insides are like trying still computing what that is. Like how do you stage for 2 turns? Like
Yeah.
what are
Yeah.
you doing?
Yeah, no,
um,
I mean, it's and then Brian is like in between the two of us,
yeah,
right? Brian's
yeah,
like a
100%.
little bit more aggro than me, but like way less aggro than you. So,
Um,
and you're totally right. It speaks volumes to the like meta toolbox aspect of the list where
yeah.
it's like you can actually take this and I've never actually seen a list where you can take it and play it in like 3 different play styles and it will function really well in all of those, which I think
Weird.
is incredible, like
Yeah,
super
it's definitely an accident. Like that's not an intended feature. That is a bug, not a feature.
but
Like
it's a good bug, you know.
it's it was just like I was just taking what I play and added some more scoring pieces in it because I was so sick of Pariah's nonsense actions.
Yeah,
Um and it just ended up working out.
Angron
But yeah,
charged in turn 1 in a single game for me in Broadsword.
you did not?
No, that's the I only charged Angron in turn 1 in one game.
Oh, okay.
And that
Yeah,
was the Beastmaster one.
that's fair because Angron is really hard to move on WTC. The
Yeah, he
WTC
is.
terrain is quite difficult for him to move, and unless your opponent is giving you charges, then it's
Yeah,
difficult. Um, but yeah, no, it's super fun. Um, and I think that I don't think you're ever going to a more aggressive play style. I think that's
I
just
don't think
not
so.
you.
Yeah, it's just not me.
And so to answer your question, R2, I think we answered it for him. Is that Dara will remain passive,
Hiding behind
passively
my
aggressive.
walls, waving at you,
Um,
saying, I'll kill you if you come near me.
and then we'll see what Santa brings us to see if he stays on Gron or not. To Gron
Yes.
or not to Gron?
Yeah, it's
That
a
will be
it's a
the
big
question.
mystery, right? Big mystery.
And I think that's the end of the questions here. So those were really cool.
Awesome.
But yeah, man, that was a great recap. I can't. I want to come out and cross the pond just to go to an event with you.
It would be
'Cause it
fun,
seems like it
right?
was so fun. I like hearing all these great stories through the Skull Takers has been awesome.
Yeah. You can
But
stop me
yeah,
from putting Exalted in reserve. It would be good.
I would have sprinted at the table and body surfed across the terrain. Be like, no, don't, like,
Oh dear. Yeah. would have been necessary, I
I
think.
could just imagine Colin Snoopy dancing on the table, just like,
He was so happy. He was so happy when I did it.
oh, oh, I
Yeah.
love you. You're amazing. But anyway, buddy, that was yeah. Unless you got anyone you want to thank or talk to
Yeah, I mean,
post event.
just it was great events, run really well. Shout out to Broadsword. Shout out to all the folks.
Yeah,
Like the scene in Ireland is small, but it's really tight knit, and the
it's
homies are
great.
really good. So super nice to catch up with so many people, and just have a great time over the weekend. So, and yep, super happy myself. And can't wait to see what's coming up next. Can't wait for WCW, man. That's what I
Oh
want to shout
man,
out.
I'm
Like that is so hype.
it's my first one. It's Brian's second, and so he's the but it's bigger than it was last year, I
Way
think.
bigger. Way
Um,
bigger. Yeah.
and so I was look. It's up in BCP now, so I have it in BCP, and I was looking at the names, and I was just like, like, oh my God, this is just like a look at the top 300 players in ELO, and that's who's here. Like
Yep.
wild. And so I'm pretty horrified, but really looking forward to it. The list lock is tomorrow, so I've already put in the RB2K, but Brian is trying to gaslight me. Um,
Don't
I,
listen to
I'm
him.
I'm gonna stay strong, and he's gonna take the Forge Fiend, and I don't know if he is.
Oh
I'm
no,
guessing.
he's faking you out. Like 100% faking you out.
Yeah, I guess. Did Brian know about the six Exalted in Reserve before today?
I
Before
didn't
this?
tell anyone. I was ashamed afterwards. I was like
Oh my
sitting
God.
outside being like, what did I do?
Um I want him to watch this so bad. I won't tell him until he watches this, and I want to see his reaction. It'll be
Like
wild.
the gif of Anakin just being like, what have I done? It was like, that hit pretty much in turn one, where I was like, oh God, why did
I
I
love it.
do
I
that?
love it so much though. Like it's so fun. Like and then not even like a dickish way. Like it's so much fun to
So
see how
goofy, man.
different players do things. And like it almost worked for you, right?
If I
It's
went
not like
second, it would have been great.
it's not like they didn't come in and slap. It's not like, you were like if you're a passive player, like you're probably not going to make an insane push early anyway, so maybe it
I just
works.
love that I rapid ingress them where they would have naturally staged if they deployed on the board. So it's like, ooh, spin
Don't
a
tell me
CP,
that.
do nothing.
Don't tell me
Nice.
that. Don't tell me that. All
I'm
right,
sorry,
buddy.
Ryan.
Well, it was been an absolute pleasure as always. I'm really excited that the shoe's on the other foot for this one. Got to interview you for
It
an
was
event.
cool, man. Yeah, you're killing
Um,
it, and I'm
but
sure everyone is real hype to see you kind of being here more often. Like, I mean,
well,
I'm super hype.
I'm trying, buddy. Trying. It's a great crew to be a part of. So anyway, guys, Dara, if you've got nothing else, we'll let the people have their evening. All right. Well, guys, thanks so much. My name's Ryan. It's Dara. See you on the next one. And kill, maim, burn.